Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Pastor Joseph and I share thoughts and ideas inspired straight from the Bible. Want to pause briefly to welcome our newest subscribers. So glad that you chose to journey along with me. And if this is your first time stopping by, please do consider liking or subscribing or checking out any of the other videos that I've shared with you. Well, today we're just going to dive right in. We've been looking at Matthew chapter 16 and circling around the middle of the chapter. And we've been looking at the question, what is it that I wish that I knew before joining a congregation? So now we're looking at the second question that Jesus asked. And let me read that question for you. It's found in Matthew chapter 16, verse 15. And it reads, "And he said to them, 'Who do you say that I am?'" Now, if you missed last week's video, here's a link to jump right in to get some context. But for those who don't have time to go back to watch a previous video, let me give you a quick summary. Jesus has pulled away with his 12 disciples, and he's talking to them directly, and he's asking them important questions away from the church, away from their sphere of influence. And these questions should resonate with us today. Today, there are three things that we can learn from the second question that Jesus asked his disciple. The first point that I drew from this passage is that before you join a congregation, you need to know Jesus for yourself. You see, Jesus asked this question of his disciples even before he mentions the word church, which means fundamentally we need to know him before we join a congregation. Now, all hope is not lost because you're probably saying, maybe I go to church to meet Jesus. Here Jesus is saying, no, you can know me even before you go into the congregation. That's a whole conversation for a whole nother series of videos that I may make at some point. But anyways, the first point that you need to remember is that you need to know Jesus for yourself. The second point that we learn from this passage before joining a congregation, it's important to know how that congregation answers the question. Do they know Jesus? Can you see his character manifested in that congregation? Now, before you pause and say, see, I'm going to leave the church that I attend right now because I don't see Jesus in the midst. But hold on just a second. Jesus tells us in another verse how we can come to know who Jesus is. Now, let's look at Matthew chapter 16, verse 17. And it reads, "And Jesus answered him, 'Blessed are you, Simon Bar Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven.'" I want to stop right there. You see, knowing Jesus is more about accepting the revelation of who he is. So here, the third point that we learn is before you join a congregation, you need to allow Jesus to be revealed in you. And as he is revealed in you, when you join a congregation, you either join other followers who have the revelation of Jesus Christ as well, or you become that spark that will draw them to seek the revelation of Jesus Christ. You see, what makes a church function is simply the Jesus in me connecting with the Jesus in you, and that becomes the strength of the congregation and assembly. So my simple encouragement for you today is that your prayer life changes, that each day you ask Jesus for a new revelation of who he is so that you can continue answering that question and watch your family life, your spiritual life, your church life, your work life, and all aspects of your life be transformed through the divine revelation of who he is. Thank you so much for stopping by. Next week, we're going to dive into a whole nother topic, so make sure you come on back for our weekly video. Thank you so much for journeying with me, and I will see you next time.